The vanguard of humanity. The first time Captain Elena Reyes saw a Nexari warship, she understood why they had conquered 17 star systems in less than a decade. The massive vessel hung in space like a predatory sea creature, its hull gleaming with an iridescent blue-black sheen that seemed to absorb rather than reflect the distant starlight. Its organic curves belied the devastating power it contained, power that had reduced countless civilizations to ash and memory. "Tactical analysis," she ordered, her voice steady, despite the knot forming in her stomach. Lieutenant Commander Jackson's fingers flew across his console. "Nexari Dreadnought class, Captain. Energy readings suggest weapons capabilities far beyond our conventional defenses. Their shielding technology appears to be operating at full capacity." Elena nodded, studying the main view screen of the UES Defiant. The pride of Earth's Space Defense Force looked pitifully small compared to the alien behemoth. Behind the Nexari flagship, dozens more warships were dropping out of faster-than-light travel, arranging themselves in the familiar hunting formation that had become the last sight of so many doomed worlds. "They're hailing us," Communications Officer Patel announced, her voice tight with tension. On screen, Elena ordered, straightening her uniform jacket. The alien that appeared on the view screen bore little resemblance to the humans it had come to conquer. Grand Admiral Ketsera's exoskeleton gleamed with the same blue-black iridescence as her ship's, 4 compound eyes reflecting the light of her command center. Mandibles clicked in what Elena had learned was amusement. "Human vessel," the translator rendered Ketsera's clicking speech into flat, emotionless English. "Your species' resistance ends today. The Nexari Empire claims this system and all resources within it. Surrender your planetary defenses and prepare for occupation." Elena met the alien's gaze without flinching. "This is Captain Elena Reyes of the United Earth Defense Force. We respectfully decline your offer, Admiral." The alien's mandibles clicked rapidly. "You misunderstand, human. This was not an offer. You have witnessed the fate of those who resist the Empire. Your civilization is primitive. Your technology is inferior. Your defeat is inevitable." "Perhaps," Elena replied, allowing herself a small smile. "But I think you'll find humans are full of surprises." The communication ended abruptly. Elena turned to her bridge crew, seeing determination mixed with fear on their faces. They knew the odds. Every simulation, every analysis, every comparison of technological capabilities indicated that humanity should fall to the Nexari within days. "All hands, battle stations," she ordered. "Initiate Operation Hydra." Throughout the ship, warning klaxons sounded as crew members rushed to their positions. The Defiant was just one small part of humanity's response to the alien invasion, a response that had been in development since the first contact with Nexari scouts 3 years ago. "Operation Hydra activated, Captain," reported Commander Lai from the tactical station. "All vessels in position. Planetary defense grid online. Phase 1 ready for implementation." Elena took a deep breath. Earth's fate, humanity's fate, now hung in the balance. Execute Phase 1. Across the solar system, 1,000 small satellites that had appeared dormant and insignificant to Nexari scans suddenly activated. Each contained not weapons, but something the aliens would soon learn to fear far more: quantum entanglement communication arrays. QEC network established, Officer Patel confirmed. Receiving confirmation from all fleet elements. The Nexari communications jamming has failed. In the 5 decades since discovering faster-than-light travel, humanity had expanded cautiously into the stars, establishing colonies on Mars, Europa, and a handful of exoplanets. They were nowhere near the technological level of the Nexari Empire in conventional weapons, propulsion, or shielding. But in one area, humans had developed technology that surpassed even the mighty Nexari: information warfare. The first sign that something was wrong came when 3 Nexari destroyers on the outer edge of their formation suddenly fired on their own vessels. On the Defiant's tactical display, Commander Lai watched with grim satisfaction. "Phase 1 successful, Captain. Our cyber warfare algorithms have penetrated the first layer of Nexari command protocols. The Nexari relied heavily on networked artificial intelligence to control their vast armada, a fact that Earth's intelligence services had discovered by capturing and dissecting a damaged scout ship years earlier. What they found was the Empire's greatest vulnerability. For all their technological might, the Nexari had never faced an adversary capable of turning their own systems against them. They're attempting to isolate affected ships and establish firewalls, Jackson reported. Adaptation occurring faster than we anticipated. Elena had expected nothing less. The Nexari hadn't conquered nearly a fifth of the known galaxy by being slow to adapt. Implement Phase 2. Across the solar system, hidden installations powered up, sending precisely calibrated gravitational waves through space. Invisible to conventional sensors, these waves disrupted the delicate quantum processors that formed the heart of Nexari technology. On the view screen, Elena watched as the mighty alien vessels began to drift out of formation, their movements becoming erratic as their navigation systems failed. The Defiant rocked suddenly as a Nexari cruiser fired its main weapon, the energy beam passing dangerously close to their port side. They're shooting blindly, Jackson observed. Their targeting systems are compromised. Elena nodded. Now for Phase 3. Deploy the AESIR platforms. From concealed positions throughout the asteroid belt, 30 unmanned combat platforms accelerated toward the disoriented Nexari fleet. Unlike conventional warships, these autonomous electronic systems for infiltration and response were little more than advanced computers surrounded by minimal life support and propulsion systems. Their purpose was not to engage in traditional combat, but to get close enough to directly interface with Nexari systems. On the bridge of her flagship, Grand Admiral Ketsera struggled to comprehend what was happening. Warning signals flashed across her command console as ship after ship reported critical system failures. Her mandibles clicked in agitation as she addressed her chief technology officer. How is this possible? Their technology is primitive. They rely on silicon-based computing and digital encryption that we broke through centuries ago. The technology officer's carapace had paled to a sickly gray. Unknown, Admiral. Our analysis suggests they're using methods we've never encountered. Our defensive algorithms have no reference points for these attacks. Ketsera's eyes narrowed. Impossible. Research Division assured me humans were at least 2 centuries from developing quantum computing capable of challenging our systems. It appears Research Division was mistaken. The officer replied, mandibles quivering in fear. The humans, they're not fighting the way we expected. They're not trying to destroy our ships. They're taking control of them. As if to emphasize this point, the tactical display showed 5 Nexari destroyers turning their weapons on the flagship, energy beams dissipating harmlessly against its shields. Disengage all network connections, Ketsera ordered. Every ship is to operate autonomously. Purge all systems and revert to manual control. But the order came too late. The AESIR platforms had already attached themselves to key vessels throughout the fleet, including the communication relay ships that would have transmitted her commands. The Nexari battle formation, once a perfect, synchronized instrument of destruction, had devolved into chaos. On the Defiant, Elena watched the disintegration of the alien offensive with cautious optimism. Status of AESIR deployment. 28 platforms successfully docked and integrated with Nexari vessels, Lai reported. They're implementing the Trojan Horse Protocol now. We're gaining control of their weapons and propulsion systems. The Nexari flagship suddenly fired its main cannon, the beam of energy slicing through 2 of its own cruisers. Elena raised an eyebrow. Was that us? Lai nodded. AESIR-17 has taken control of the flagship's weapons array. We're turning their firepower against them. For 3 years, humanity had prepared for this moment. While the Nexari saw them as primitive beings barely worth subjugating, humans had been studying, analyzing, and developing countermeasures to the alien technology. Unable to match the Empire's raw firepower, Earth's greatest minds had focused instead on the one arena where humans had always excelled: adaptation and asymmetric warfare. "Captain," Patul called out, "we're receiving a transmission from Admiral Ketsera." "On screen," Elena ordered. The Nexari commander appeared once more, but the imperious confidence was gone. Her exoskeleton had dulled to a matte gray, a sign of extreme stress in her species. "What have you done?" she demanded. "How is this possible?" Elena leaned forward in her chair. "As I said, Admiral, humans are full of surprises. Your mistake was assuming that technological superiority meant victory was assured. But humans have been fighting against superior forces throughout our history. We've learned to find weaknesses, to adapt, to overcome. This is unprecedented." Ketsera's mandibles clicked rapidly. "No species has ever repelled a full Nexari invasion force." "Then consider us honored to be the first," Elena replied. "But we won't be the last. Your empire has relied on overwhelming force and technological advantage for too long. You never bothered to develop defenses against the unexpected." As they spoke, more of the Nexari fleet fell under human control. Ships that had traveled across galaxies to conquer Earth were now being turned against each other, their fearsome weapons rendered useless, or worse, repurposed to destroy their own kind. "The Nexari flagship is attempting to initiate a warp jump," Lai reported suddenly. "They're trying to escape." Elena considered her options. Allowing the flagship to flee would mean the Nexari would eventually return, better prepared for humanity's tactics. But destroying it would eliminate valuable intelligence and possibly any chance for a negotiated peace. "Lock quantum disruptors on their warp drive," she ordered. "Disable, don't destroy." A focused beam of energy lanced out from the Defiant, striking the flagship's warp nacelles with surgical precision. The buildup of energy that had been gathering around the massive ship dissipated harmlessly into space. "Direct hit," Lai confirmed. "Their FTL capabilities are offline." Elena nodded, then turned back to the view screen where Admiral Ketsera waited. "Your options are limited, Admiral. Your fleet is compromised. Your escape routes are blocked. You can continue this fight and watch as we use your own ships to dismantle your invasion force piece by piece, or you can surrender." The alien's compound eyes reflected the chaos unfolding on her own bridge. For a moment, Elena thought she might choose destruction over the humiliation of defeat. Instead, Ketsera's posture changed, her exoskeleton flattening in the Nexari gesture of submission. "The Nexari Empire has never negotiated with inferior species," she said, her translator struggling to convey the complex emotions in her clicking speech. "But it seems we must reevaluate our assessment of humanity." It was not a surrender, not yet, but it was an acknowledgement that the easy victory the Nexari had expected would not come. As the first part of humanity's defense plan unfolded successfully, Elena allowed herself a moment of hope. Against all odds, against an enemy that had never known defeat, humanity had won the opening round. But the war was far from over. The Nexari fleet might be in disarray, but it was still vastly powerful. And now that the element of surprise was gone, the real battle would begin. "Prepare for Phase 4, Elena ordered, her eyes fixed on the alien vessels scattered across the view screen. "This is just the beginning." The tide turns. Grand Admiral Ketsera had conquered worlds across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. She had accepted the surrender of species whose technology had once seemed godlike to her ancestors. She had never known defeat, until now. "Isolate all command functions," she ordered, her voice carrying the clicking undertones of barely controlled rage. "Disconnect neural interfaces. Revert to manual control on all surviving vessels." Around her, the bridge crew worked frantically to implement her commands, their carapaces pale with stress. The flagship's systems had been partially compromised, but the most critical functions remained under Nexari control for now. "Status report," she demanded. Her second-in-command, Sub-Admiral Vextor, approached with the rigid posture that indicated severe distress. 43% of the fleet has been compromised, Admiral. 17 vessels destroyed by friendly fire. The humans have penetrated our command protocols at levels we believed impossible. Ketsara's inner eyelids flickered rapidly, her species equivalent of a contemplative frown. How? Their technological development is centuries behind ours. We monitored their communications, their scientific advances. Nothing suggested they possessed this capability. It appears they developed their countermeasures in isolation, Vextor replied. No digital transmissions, no quantum communications we could intercept. They prepared in silence, using their knowledge of our technology from the scout ship we lost in their system 3 cycles ago. The Admiral's mandibles clicked in bitter appreciation. These humans were cleverer than anyone had anticipated. The Nexari Empire had grown complacent, relying on technological superiority rather than tactical innovation. It was a mistake she would not make again. Prepare for counteroffensive exodus protocol, she ordered, and send a priority transmission to the Empire. We require reinforcements. Aboard the UES Defiant, Captain Alina Reyes received the update with guarded optimism. Phase 3 had been more successful than their most optimistic projections, with nearly half the Nexari fleet compromised or disabled. But the alien forces were adapting more quickly than expected. They're implementing some kind of system purge, reported Commander Lai. We're losing access to the compromised vessels. AESIR platforms 7 through 16 have been detected and destroyed. Elena had anticipated this. The Nexari were formidable opponents, their technological advantage built over millennia of conquest. That humanity had achieved even temporary success against them was remarkable. They're broadcasting a signal toward the Galactic core, Communications Officer Patel announced. Quantum encrypted, but our analysis suggests it's a distress call. Reinforcements, Alina said grimly. Earth's defense plan had accounted for the initial invasion force, but a second wave would stretch their resources to the breaking point. How long do we have? Based on known Nexari FTL capabilities and the location of their nearest major fleet, approximately 72 hours, Jackson replied. Elena nodded. Then we proceed to Phase 4 immediately. Contact General Okonkwo at Lunar Command. Tell him to activate the Heimdall network. Throughout Earth's solar system, in facilities hidden beneath the surfaces of moons and asteroids, massive power plants hummed to life. For decades, humanity had presented a deliberately misleading front to any watching alien eyes. Inefficient rocket technology, primitive satellites, clumsy space stations, all while beneath the surface, they prepared. The Heimdall network was humanity's greatest achievement and most closely guarded secret. A system of interconnected quantum field generators capable of manipulating space-time itself. Not powerful enough to create wormholes or achieve faster-than-light travel, but sufficient for a more modest and more immediately useful application. Heimdall network activating, announced Commander Lai. Quantum field stabilizing. Ready to implement on your command, Captain. Elena took a deep breath. Engage. Throughout the solar system, the quantum field generators activated simultaneously, creating a ripple effect that spread outward at light speed. To conventional sensors, nothing appeared to happen. But at the quantum level, everything changed. The first indication came when a Nexari cruiser attempted to fire its main weapon at Earth's orbital defense platform. The energy beam formed, blazed brilliantly, and then dissipated harmlessly, as if striking an invisible barrier. What is happening? Demanded Admiral Ketsara, watching as weapon after weapon failed. Why can we not penetrate their defenses? Her science officer's antennae quivered with confusion. Unknown, Admiral. Our weapons are functioning normally, but the energy dissipates before reaching the targets. It's as if the fundamental constants of physics have been altered in this region of space. Which was precisely what had happened. The Heimdall network didn't generate shields or barriers in the conventional sense. Instead, it subtly altered the quantum field around Earth, changing how energy propagated through space-time within the solar system. Weapons designed to function under normal universal constants suddenly found themselves in an environment where those constants had been tweaked just enough to render them ineffective. On the Defiant, Alina watched as the Nexari fleet's weaponry failed again and again. Status of our own weapons systems. Functioning within parameters, Captain, Lai replied with a satisfied smile. Our researchers have had years to calibrate our technology to function within the altered field. The tables had turned. The technologically superior Nexari suddenly found their fearsome weapons neutralized, while Earth's comparatively primitive armaments remained fully operational. All Earth Defense Force vessels. This is Captain Reyes. Alina broadcast to the human fleet. Commence coordinated attack pattern Sierra. Target propulsion systems and communication arrays. Disable, don't destroy unless absolutely necessary. Across the solar system, human ships that had been hiding within the asteroid belt, concealed beneath the icy surfaces of outer moons, or disguised as debris from earlier space development, now moved into attack position. They were smaller than their Nexari counterparts, less heavily armored, with shorter range. But they could do what the alien vessels could not. They could fight. Admiral Ketsera watched in disbelief as her mighty fleet found itself under attack by ships they would normally have destroyed with ease. Retreat, she ordered finally. All vessels, disengage and regroup at the heliopause. But even this proved impossible. As the Nexari ships attempted to engage their FTL drives, the engines flared and died, the altered quantum field preventing the formation of stable warp bubbles. We are trapped, Admiral, Vextor reported, his voice flat with shock. We cannot fight. We cannot flee. Commander Lai approached her chair, speaking quietly. The Xoreth ambassador is requesting permission to send a delegation to Earth, Captain. General Okonkwo is asking for your recommendation. Alina considered the request. The appearance of the Xoreth raised as many questions as it answered. Why had they chosen this moment to reveal themselves? What did they really want from humanity? Yet diplomatic engagement was always preferable to isolation, especially now that Earth had announced its presence on the galactic stage in such dramatic fashion. Tell the General I recommend accepting the delegation with appropriate security protocols, she decided, and inform Ambassador Televon that we welcome the opportunity for cultural exchange. As the Nexari fleet was escorted toward Earth under the watchful eyes of both human vessels and the crystalline Xoreth ship, Alina allowed herself to contemplate the future. Humanity had prepared for this moment for decades, developing technologies in secret, creating defenses specifically tailored to counter the Nexari threat. But they had done so believing they stood alone against a vast and hostile universe. Perhaps they had been wrong. Perhaps the galaxy contained not just conquerors but potential friends, species who valued innovation over destruction, cooperation over domination. 3 days later, standing in the observation dome of Earth's orbital diplomatic station, Alina watched as representatives from 3 species, human, Nexari, and Xoreth, gathered around a negotiating table. Admiral Ketsera, stripped of her command, but still serving as the Empire's representative, sat across from General Okonkwo and the UN Secretary-General. The crystalline form of Ambassador Televon hovered between them, its faceted body refracting the light of Earth rising over the lunar horizon. Captain Reyes, General Okonkwo called her over. The Admiral was just explaining why the Nexari chose to target Earth specifically. Ketsera's compound eyes fixed on Alina as she approached. Your species has been under observation since you split the atom, the alien explained. Standard protocol for potentially threatening civilizations. When you achieved rudimentary space travel, the Empire classified you as a Level 3 acquisition target, valuable for resources and genetic diversity, with minimal military challenge. Alina couldn't help but smile at the irony. You underestimated us. Catastrophically, Ketsera agreed, her translator failing to fully capture the complex emotions in her clicking speech. The Empire has never encountered a species that developed so asymmetrically, prioritizing information warfare and quantum field manipulation over conventional weapons technology. It challenges our understanding of civilizational development. Humans have always been adaptable, Elena replied. When we can't overpower an obstacle, we find ways around it. Ambassador Televon's crystalline form shifted, creating a harmonic resonance that the translators rendered as thoughtful laughter. This is why we believe humanity may succeed where others have failed. The galaxy is far more complex than either the Nexari Empire or the Toreth Conclave alone understands. Perhaps a young species, unbound by millennia of tradition, might forge new paths. General Okonkwo nodded. That is our hope as well, Ambassador. But first, we must secure lasting peace with the Empire. The negotiations continued well into Earth's night, establishing boundaries, agreements, and the tentative foundations of diplomatic relations between three vastly different civilizations. No one harbored illusions that peace would come easily or without setbacks. The Nexari Empire still vastly outmatched Earth in conventional military power, and the Xoreth remained enigmatic allies at best. But standing there, watching representatives of species from across the stars discussing their shared future, Elena felt something she hadn't experienced since the Nexari threat was first discovered: hope. Humanity had survived its first interstellar crisis not through superior firepower, but through innovation, preparation, and the willingness to challenge conventional wisdom. They had announced their presence to the galaxy not as conquerors, but as defenders, willing to fight when necessary but preferring cooperation when possible. As the Earth continued its eternal rotation below them, Captain Elena Reyes allowed herself a moment of pride. The stars no longer seemed like a vast, threatening void but a frontier filled with both danger and possibility. Humanity had faced extinction and emerged stronger, wiser, and with new allies among the stars. The real journey was just beginning.